Welcome to this session, a session that has triggered considerable interest, at least in the Norwegian media community and the Nordic as well. My name is Sindre Østgaard, and I will try to guide us through the next 90+ minutes of very interesting conversation with and about Facebook and their role in our ecosystem. And the theme is, it's lost there, it's free speech, Facebook, and editorial responsibility. The background for this is that the Norwegian Minister of Culture, Linda Hofstad Helleland, and the chairman of the Association of Norwegian Editors, Harald Stanghelle, they invited Facebook together to take part of this important discussion. And we are very happy that they actually said yes, and are represented here today by Patrick Walker, who is their Facebook's director for media partnerships for EMEA, which I believe is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, right? Welcome. And we also have invited Espen Egil Hansen to share his perspectives. He is the editor who cleared the front page of Aftenposten and went viral with his letter, Dear Mark. And to balance that, we've invited Jan Thoresen from Alle Media and Monica Lind from Egmont, Lead. And in the end, we're going to open up for questions. And you are strong-minded and strong-spoken people, so if you don't use the chance today to ask the questions, you will never get it. So this is the time to prepare the great question. Please use the hashtag editor16 when you share perspectives from here, so we can see what happened. And know that the session is being streamed live, and it will be available video on demand afterwards, so you can see what happened. But before we get going, let us rewind a few weeks back, or even a month, to late August and see what happened in the Norwegian news ecosystem when the story broke out. So if you're ready to roll the video, let us look at that. Thank you.
Tom Egeland utestengt fra Facebook. Nettsamfunnet likte dårlig kritikken fra journalisten og forfatteren. I forrige veke la journalist og forfatter Tom Egeland ut dette bildet på sin Facebook-vegg. Facebook fjernet bildet og mente det var i strid med sine retningslinjer for nakenhet.
Dette bildet bidro kanskje til å endre den amerikanske opinionens holdning til Vietnamkrigen. Det en alvorlig inngripen i samfunnsdebatten, nettopp fordi dette handler jo om kritikk av Facebook.
Ja, velkommen til 1830-nyhetene. Presset mot Facebook sin sensurpolitikk øker. Dette Aftenpostens forside i dag, der sjefredaktør Espen Egil Hansen forteller Mark Zuckerberg at han nekter å fjerne det viktige dokumentarbildet fra Vietnamkrigen, der 10 år gamle Kim Phuc rømmer fra amerikanske napalmbomber. Statsminister Erna Solberg poster også bildet på sin Facebook-profil i dag. Kort tid etter blir det fjernet. Erna svarer Facebook med å poste dette innlegget med 6 historiske bilder der alle sladda. Facebook tråkker feil og bør endre praksisen, sier statsministeren.
I det at de da har lagt en sånn policy at et bilde av denne typen, som en del av vår store historie, som har vært med på å forme utviklingen, at det skal fjernes, det å redigere i historien vår, og det synes jeg utfordrer.
Kjære Mark, jeg har skrevet et brev til deg for å forklare hvorfor jeg ikke kommer til å fjerne dette bildet fra Facebook.
Aftenposten-redaktørens kritikk av Mark Zuckerberg i dag har vakt internasjonal oppsikt.
But they have to be responsible.
Velkommen til 21-nyhetene der det utvikling i kveld. For Facebook snur etter massivt press, tillet likevel brukerne å poste dette ikoniske Vietnambildet. I kveld ble det altså klart at Facebook snur etter massivt press. Nettsamfunnet sier de ikke lenger vil sensurere det viktige dokumentarbildet som viser 9 år gamle Kim Phuc som rømmer fra amerikanske napalmbomber i Vietnam.
Når Facebook nå snur og tillater publisering av det ikoniske krigsbildet, viker de fra prinsippet om at all nakenhet, uansett form, skal sensureres bort. Dette skjer etter at protestene mot sensuren I dag når det øverste politiske nivå I Norge. Selv statsministeren fikk bildet sensurert.
Og det bidrar til egentlig å legitimere litt det man gjør I andre land, hvor man faktisk redigerer I historien for at den skal passe til styresmaktenes bilde.
Ikke bare Solberg protesterte, men også de andre partilederne.
Facebook, stopp å sensurere verdenshistorien.
Dette et viktig bilde fra historien. Det kan ikke sensureres bort.
Det bildet her utrolig vondt, men det viser oss hvor fælt krig kan være.
Vi kan ikke akseptere at det Facebook som skal styre vår demokratiske samtale.
Det feil av Facebook å sensurere et av de bildene som var med å endre krigshistorien I verden.
Så må dere lære dere forskjellen mellom et nakenbilde og et av den nyere tids aller viktigste pressefotografier.
Gjennom viktige fotografi har verden en kollektiv hukommelse. Den må vi ikke sensurere vekk.
Og Facebook ble nærmest latterliggjort av den norske statsministeren da hun publiserte bilder av historiske hendelser som hun selv hadde sleddet.
Dette et bilde fra vår felles historie. Det kan vi ikke redigere vekk. Så Facebook må endre sin redigeringspolitikk. Jeg jo veldig glad I dag, for det viser jo at påvirkning på sosiale medier kan påvirke også de sosiale mediene selv. Og det viktig å huske at nesten 90% av de som under 30 år har sin hovedinformasjonskilde knyttet til nyheter, knyttet til...
Thank you. So, big win for Norway. Since then, as you know, the picture is allowed. The COO, a very powerful and very cool woman called Sheryl Sandberg, apologized to Norwegian Prime Minister. And Facebook put out a blog post 10 days ago, I think, saying that they will change their community standards. They will allow more items that people find newsworthy, interesting word, significant, or important to the public interest, even if they might otherwise violate our standards. And we are interested to discuss what does that mean. So we're going to get back to that, but before that, I would like to introduce Patrick Walker. And you can come up here and I'll say some nice things about you while you walk. Because Patrick is actually one of us. He has over 20 years of experience in the television, radio, and online media industry, always at the crossroads of content and technology. He is the director of media partnerships at Facebook, and that means responsibility for leading content partnerships with media companies in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And that's across news, sports, and entertainment. He has a degree in journalism from the University of Southern California. He worked with NHK, which is the Japanese public service broadcaster.
Yep.
You've been a correspondent for BBC, I believe.
That's right.
And you worked with partnerships for YouTube, and you've been in digital startups working on both partnerships and content.
Yep.
So you're perfect for this. We have actually asked Patrick to talk a bit about how he sees Facebook's role in society and the media business now and in the future.
Yeah.
How does Facebook define itself? It's very interesting because we're trying to define them all the time. And what systems do you have for controlling and regulating content? What comes to me and what doesn't come to me as a user? So I would like us all to give a very warm welcome and an applause for Patrick being here. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting career journey, and it's interesting when all of this sort of comes together. It's a great time to be here. It's a great time to have this conversation. I really appreciate you inviting me to join you today. 6 weeks ago, a famous image was posted on Facebook. It contained child nudity, something that we do not permit on Facebook. So when people reported the image to our reviewers, we immediately took it down. That's not unusual for us. We receive over 1 million reports every day, 1 million, which means that 350 pieces of content have been flagged for review by our team since I started speaking to you. In fact, this particular photo had been taken down many times before for the same reason. What was unusual was your response. The photo was reposted by dozens of publishers, people, and public figures, many who were in this room. As soon as we reviewed the image in question, we knew something was wrong. Terror of War is an iconic photograph, one that altered public opinion about the Vietnam War. It has considerable historic significance. It has a naked child in it, but yet it's clearly not pornography. It changed the course of a war, and it belongs on Facebook. So we reinstated it. And on the 21st of October, we announced a change to our policies to allow for more items that people find newsworthy, significant, or important to the public interest, even if they might otherwise violate our standards. What happened with this photo, and the part you played in bringing it to our attention, speaks to much bigger questions about Facebook's role in the world, about the future of journalism, and also about the challenges we both face. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today, because I believe there are opportunities for us to work together in a way that's good for both industries and good for the world. But first, I want to take you back nearly 20 years to May 1998. I was the Southeast Asia Bureau Chief for the BBC, and I was reporting on the riots in Jakarta, where the military had opened fire on unarmed students who were protesting for greater democracy. As we were scrambling to film in the chaos, I lost my cameraman, Jono, in the smoke, and that's actually me in the upper right corner. I found that this weekend. That was quite a long time ago, but I remember it very well. I had this little Nokia phone. You might remember these. Had no camera, had no internet, definitely no video, and no satellite connection, that's for sure. And I used it to call in this report because it was the only thing that I could do. So here's the actual report from that moment.
Right now, there's a mob of about 2,000 to 3,000 people. These are not students from the campus that faced off against the police yesterday. This is a crowd of young men. And they broke down the fences along the highway. They're making barricades, spray painting the walls. Just below me, underneath the freeway, a truck is caught on fire. The students hijacked the truck, broke the windows, and set it ablaze.
Students who are...
So that was not the best quality, was it? That's about the best I could get, particularly I had burning trucks below the bridge and police officers fighting with students just nearby me. It was very tense. I later found Jono. He was bleeding from the shoulder where a bullet had grazed him, but like most news cameramen or camerawomen, they're pretty indestructible, and they like to get on with the job. So we found our way back through the riots to the hotel. We went upstairs and unpacked 4 very heavy metal boxes of editing equipment. You might remember some of this. Beta decks, big monitors, power source, and we started to edit an hour's worth of footage into about 5 minutes. Several hours later, we wound our way through the riots, the burning buildings, and several roadblocks to the broadcast center, which was the only way to send our pictures back. We were blocked by the soldiers who refused us entry. As you do often have to do in these circumstances, a few bribes later, we found ourselves upstairs, and a few bribes later, the engineers let us actually connect to the satellite and send our pictures home. We got the pictures back just in time for the BBC's 9 o'clock news. That's how you used to send pictures around for news. It was particularly difficult, and it cost thousands of dollars. Today, we could do that very same thing with one of these. For the immediacy, of course, if need be, I could do all of that with this camera, 8-megapixel camera, video, editing capabilities, satellite connectivity. It's all there, and a hell of a lot cheaper satellite connection than anything in the past. It empowers journalists. To date, it costs almost nothing for a news organization to empower their journalists with tools like these and citizens around the world for even $44 with 3 months of free data. You could buy the same. A 1-megapixel camera in that year, 1998, would have cost you $20,000. So clearly, the pace of change has been good for journalism. In the past quarter century, nearly half the world has been connected to the internet at greater and greater speeds. The pace of technological change keeps growing, and technology is evolving and is creating new opportunities for journalism. Some of the most compelling stories come from people who were previously silenced, people who now have a voice, and the means to amplify that voice for the first time. A high school student in Nigeria or a protester in the Philippines can speak to the world on their terms. In the US, the debate about police shootings has been completely changed because ordinary people using ordinary technology can now broadcast live video to everyone. Publishers and journalists are also using new technology to tell stories in new and engaging ways. On the evening of the Brexit vote, the UK's ITV network used Facebook Live to bring people into a conversation about the referendum. giving them the chance to ask questions and react to events as they unfolded. They reached 21 million people over the course of that broadcast. 1 year from launch, Facebook Live is now used by thousands of news organizations around the world. Here's a small sample of the innovative work that we see every day through the partnerships that we create.
Hi, we're live from Beijing, China.
Coming to you live from the Ichen volcano.
Live in the occupied West Bank.
Live in Orlando, Florida.
Wherever you are in the world, do contact us.
We're going to be answering your questions live.
Hundreds of people are going to be here. You'll be here too.
The UK votes to leave the European Union. Freedom feels good and a little bit scary.
Well, we're live here on Al Jazeera Facebook. I'm Nadine Barber, and I'll be following these protesters in central London.
So now, to make the case for remaining in the EU, will you please welcome the Prime Minister, David Cameron?
I'll turn the camera around and show you all what I'm seeing here.
Those are armoured vehicles. They're using the water cannon now.
We are here live from Idomeni.
This is right. Please evacuating the camp.
As the gunshots got closer, I tried calling 911 and it wouldn't go through.
The FBI, federal authorities continue their investigation.
Here we are outside St Stephen's, waiting for the first official statement from Theresa May.
Hey, Caitlin.
While I will help up politically, fighting for our community.
Please go out and vote. You're going to be very, very happy.
Welcome to the city of Longyearbyen in the Norwegian High Arctic.
Bonsoir à tous, salut, j'espère que vous allez bien. Alors on est où là?
Na, hab ich mir das anders über.
Journalists are also using technologies like 360 video and virtual reality to put people into situations they would otherwise never get to experience, like being in the middle of a war-torn city in Syria, as we had from Rasmus Tandholt of TV2 Denmark. And it's not just on the production side. Technology is changing consumption, too. In highly networked places like Europe, most people are online most of the time. News is no longer an event, something you read about at the breakfast table or watch after dinner. It's a constant, and it's something you check while you're waiting in line for a bus or in a dull meeting. And it's something you share, too. The internet is more powerful, and it's a great news discovery tool, one of the greatest in history. And the conversations around news have never been stronger. So people are spending more time with news than ever before. They're engaging with new types of media content from a broader section of the global population, and they're talking about those stories with wider groups of friends, family, and even people that they don't even know. All this should mean new opportunities for publishers as well. But another technological change is making it harder for some newsrooms to capitalize on the opportunities of this new medium. The internet has separated creation from distribution. When something can be replicated anywhere with very little physical cost, information becomes more accessible and less able to command a premium. As bandwidth and resolution increase, different industries get disrupted. At the turn of the millennium, it was the music industry with MP3 technology, then TV with the birth of online video sites like YouTube, and then movies as broadband got fast enough to download entire films quickly. Each time, the established business model was challenged and even swept away, whether it was major record labels controlling wages and CD prices, or cable TVs charging for bundled services. And something else grew in its place, a world where musicians are much less dependent on labels and much more connected to fans, where the hottest TV series can come to Netflix before they come to broadcast television. Like you, I've watched these changes happening. But about 15 years ago, I jumped the fence. After putting down that heavy analog broadcast equipment I dragged around Asia, I moved to Europe and into the digital world and eventually found myself working for Google and then YouTube. The year was 2006. It was the year Time magazine controversially made you the person of the year, saying, it's about the many taking power from the few, and how that will not only change the world, but also change the way the world changes. And all the fears I heard from friends in my old industry were familiar. YouTube will destroy TV, what are you doing? It will be the end of original programming. Investment will crater in content. There's no future for great content anymore. None of that happened. YouTube is now just one part of a rapidly growing video ecosystem that supports creators and publishers. And I would argue that the world we're in now is much better for citizens who have more access to information, more content, more choice, and more economic power. But now that the full effects of the break between creation and distribution are being felt in the news organizations, Facebook is coming under a lot of familiar criticism. In the aftermath of the terror of war photo, people said we weren't transparent, that there's no way of knowing what our algorithms do, and that publishers don't get any warning about changes to the news feed, that we refused to accept that we were editors and were abdicating our responsibilities to the public, that we were trying to muscle in on the media business and eroding the fundamentals of journalism and the business models that support it, that by encouraging publishers to optimize for clicks and showing people what they want to see, we were creating filter bubbles and echo chambers. To start to answer some of these, I think it's useful to take a step back and look at what Facebook was actually created to do. Our mission is to give people the power to share and to make the world more open and connected. We believe that being connected is a net benefit to society, that giving more voice to more people leads to more accountability and more openness, that access to technology allows people to open up opportunities for themselves, their families, and their businesses. I've lived in the UK for 16 years, where the idea of having a company mission is deeply suspicious. My British friends suspect I've been incorporated in some strange, weird American cult. I've actually lived outside the US much longer than I've lived in it, despite my accent. And some of you probably feel the same. But our mission is really something that people at Facebook all over the world deeply believe in. It does not sit neglected in some dusty drawer. It's a constant reference point for what we do every day and how we think about our company and our work and our role in the world. As we've grown, Facebook has become a central part of the experience of being online. It's where people go on the best days and on the worst days. They express how they feel and experience things from new perspectives. And increasingly, it's where people go to find out what's happening in the world around them. We recognize that this puts us in a very unique position. With so many people using our platform to stay in touch and stay informed, we think a lot about our impact on the world and about our role. We are aware that with influence comes responsibility. And we're constantly working to make sure our platform is a place where anyone can share what matters to them, a place that's as diverse and representative as the people who use it and the world it reflects. But operating at that scale is complex. A glance at almost any international negotiation or global institution shows that it takes time to get global projects right. An example, in the 15 years since the Doha round of the World Trade Organization negotiations beginning, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Uber, Twitter, they were all created. So were the iPhone and Google Maps. And in a world where everyone has a voice, we're exposed to a much wider range of opinions. And different countries and cultures have radically different understandings of what's acceptable and what's not. I'm addressing a group here of some of the most progressive editors in a progressive corner of a very progressive continent. The norms in which you operate here in Norway are distinctive and valuable, and we should strive to build a service that respects and accompanies them as much as possible. But we can't say that they are more valuable than the norms of the rest of our community, or nor can we build a wall between your culture and others. We seek to connect the world, to provide a platform for a truly global community. And in the case of the terror of war photo, we listen to feedback from all parts of the world when making our policies. What appears to be clear-cut in one country can be muddy in another. We have to assemble teams with diverse global perspectives to deal with controversial content. We all recognize the cultural resonance of the terror of war photo, which comes from a conflict in which the West was involved. But would we instinctively know the defining image from the Eritrean-Ethiopian war? Would we instantly grasp the subtleties of a post about the Colombian rebels? Or do we have the same understanding of what constitutes hate speech in Thailand? Sometimes there are direct physical consequences to our policies. A post that is mildly provocative in one country might lead us to being completely blocked in another country, perhaps shutting off access for tens of millions of people. Do we value freedom of expression in one country over the right to communicate in another? A graphic video of a terrorist attack is shared. Will it inspire people to copy the violence or to unite to stop it? Our best answer to these problems is to apply global community standards, guidelines that create a safe environment for people to share and provide the most voice to the most people. People are free to write, publish, and share whatever they please everywhere else. But content shared on Facebook must meet these community standards. We don't allow violent or hateful speech against people based on their beliefs, color of skin, or sexual orientation. We don't allow praise for terrorist acts or violent organizations. We don't allow beheadings or efforts to groom children for abuse or bullying, and bullying of private individuals. We do support and defend the broadest interpretation of freedom of speech. Although we support an open internet and the many opportunities for expression that it provides, Facebook is not the internet. We are not the beginning and the end of free expression. But increasingly we're seen as a proxy for the internet and the social, technological, and economic change that it brings. So as we try to build a service that anyone can use, we have to confront some very hard questions about what a global platform really is. We have to figure out how to both give people a voice and also counter hatred. We have to understand how cultures and outlooks can coexist on truly global platforms where speech is no longer bound by geography or language. We have to work to understand what freedom of expression means in a world where everyone is connected. The tension between allowing difficult ideas while protecting the right of expression for all is nothing new. It's at the heart of constitutions and social contracts all over the world. And the fear of the corrupting influence of new technology is also nothing new. A New York Times foreign correspondent elegantly wrote about how we used to live with spaces between continents and walls between houses. Now we live in one room where there can be no silence, no secrets, no really aloof or primitive people. Perhaps that explains all the furious fence building, the fanned-up nationalism, the angers and neuroses of our time. Her name was Anne O'Hare McCormick, and she was writing about that new consumer technology called the radio in 1932. The respected Swiss scientist Konrad Gessner said the overabundance of information brought about by a radical new technology would confuse and harm the minds of people. He was referring to the printing press in the 16th century. So it goes all the way back to Socrates and his warning that the written word, the very alphabet, will create forgetfulness in the learner's souls in the 400 BC. What is new is the internet's reach. Today it's possible to instantly reach millions with single images or sentences, for better or for worse. Learning how to manage this tension in a truly global community is a new problem, and it's one we spend a lot of time on. We care about getting it right. We can't just walk away from the task. With community standards, without the community standards, real people would suffer real harm. Bear in mind, the policies that led us to remove the terror of war photo were designed to prevent the spread of imagery that harms children and costs lives. Sometimes we get it wrong, and we hear lots of feedback from people no matter which path we choose. But our job isn't to avoid that task, it's to do it right. Our community operations team work constantly to stop hateful or violent content from spreading on our platforms. With more than 2 billion posts on Facebook every single day, this is a very big job. And not only do we face new types of content that generate new policy challenges like Facebook Live, we also handle the borderline cases that all platforms struggle with, like the image of the Syrian child, Alan Kurdi, on the beach in Turkey, which was spread very widely on Facebook. We debate the difficult policy choices internally, and I think we can do a better job of communicating those decisions openly. We recognize our responsibility to the people who use our platforms, and we design our policies and products with this responsibility in mind. We have rules about what content we take down, and we improve our policies based on feedback from the community, as with the terror of war photo. That brings me to how we think about news on Facebook. First, we do not think of ourselves as editors. We believe it's essential that Facebook stay out of the business of deciding what issues the world should read about. That's what editors do on TV, in newspapers, in magazines and journals, on blog posts and websites. But we do retain the right to take things down when they violate our community standards. As the caretaker of a platform where anyone can immediately share anything with everyone, we do have the responsibility to make sure that what is shared in a liberal society like Norway or Denmark will not put people at risk in other countries. Giving a blanket pass to all editors would bring its own problems. Should we give the same authority to all editors, regardless of circulation, type of media, country of origin? News organizations in different parts of the world have very different standards for publishing. What makes the editorial pages in some regions is considered hate speech or blasphemy in others. So where do we draw the line? The newsfeed algorithm uses people's actions and preferences to reflect their interests back to them. The single biggest thing that determines what's in your newsfeed are the choices that you make, the people and the pages that you choose to follow. Those choices do take place in a framework that we've created. The algorithms that determine what shows up in newsfeed are guided by our newsfeed values. Friends and family come first. Posts and stories should be informative, entertaining, and genuine. We don't favor specific sources or ideas. We give people controls so they can customize what they see. We'll always release details of any changes we make to the newsfeed and how they will affect content. We've also made a number of policy changes after the terror of war photo. We've improved our escalation process to ensure that controversial stories and images get surfaced more quickly. In the weeks ahead, we're going to begin allowing more items that people find newsworthy, significant, or important to the public interest, even if they might otherwise violate our standards. We'll work with our community and partners to explore exactly how to do this, both through new tools and approaches to enforcement. Our intent is to allow more images and stories without posing safety risks or showing graphic images to minors or others who don't want to see them. Allowing one particular photo is the easy part. Figuring out how to make it happen consistently at scale without breaking our promise to keep people safe is much harder. Second, on the business side, we're working with our media partners to help them find new and engaging ways to tell stories, reach bigger audience, and experiment with new technologies that we develop. That includes new products like instant articles, which load faster, hold people's attention for longer, have better reach, and more advertising options. We're improving the rules around advertising in instant articles to help publishers make more money per article. That was the #1 feedback that we received from all of our partners: help us make more money. And we're looking also to provide better dashboards so publishers can get the kind of insights that advertisers can get about how their stories are performing. We've just launched facebook.com/journalist to give people best practices and help them learn how to use the tools at Facebook to build audiences. We also are opening up our Signal app, which allows journalists to explore what's trending on Facebook and Instagram before things go viral. We're not interested in publishing or creating content ourselves. We need the incredible journalism that you create because that is the one of the many things that people come to Facebook to read about, to share, and to talk about. There's a very large audience of people that love to see the quality news that you produce in their news feeds. As a technology company, we can play an important role in helping you as publishers and media producers make sure that your work reaches them. We can and should be partners in helping people find and engage with the stories they care about. So we're investing in our media partnerships team to give publishers more support. In fact, I've just posted a new position on my team heading up the media partnerships in the Nordics. If you have any recommendations, please let me know. We're making these investments because we know that right now the future of journalism and the future of Facebook are intertwined. Because the shift away from one sector owning both creation and distribution is affecting business models for publishers. Because we hear the request for more transparency. Because we know that sections of the media face challenges too. Some news organizations missed the technological and demographic shift that the internet represents. They did not capitalize on the new relationships with and new expectations of their readers, many of which have been silent for a very long time. They didn't build businesses that could be competitive in a mobile, digital, and connected world. But above all, we believe that the news industry contributes something irreplaceable to our society, and we're here to help. We recognize the critical role you play in healthy democracies. We respect your editorial independence, the difficult decisions that you make every day, and the need for a strong, independent news media that can make the long-term investment in journalism that allows people to hold the powerful to account. In return, we ask that you understand the community standards, these guidelines that we've built our products upon, and the reasons they exist, and that, most of all, you continue to work with us to help us improve them when necessary. On our side, we will be open. We already publish details of any changes we make to the newsfeed ranked stories, and you can see them by going to our blog. And we'll continue to communicate. We're going to listen. We're going to engage. We're going to be part of the conversation. That's why I'm here today, and why we're also working with many of you in the industry. Over the past few weeks, I've helped conduct workshops in several different countries, including the UK and Spain. We're hosting a workshop for you tomorrow, and we have more in Berlin, Paris, and Copenhagen before the end of the month. These efforts matter because the internet is still unfinished. It's a new public space that's still being understood, whose norms are still being defined. And it belongs to all of us. Making sure it works requires us all. Media companies, technology companies, governments, civil society. Facebook is, of course, just one part of the internet, and we take our responsibility for that part very seriously. But we should work together to promote open conversation, counter negative speech, and build a culture of respect that will make sure the internet remains a positive and productive place as it grows. We can and we will get this right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take the questions later. Thank you, Patrick. We'll sample up all the good questions for the session afterwards, so write them down, we'll be ready. But before that, we are going to listen to another speaker, because it's not very often that the Association of the Norwegian Editors and the Minister of Culture sends a joint invitation. It's actually quite rare. Maybe it never happened before, I don't know. But this tells us a lot about how important this dialogue is for both editors and also the Minister of Culture. And we also know that the Prime Minister of Norway has been personally very engaged in this matter. So now we look forward to hear your thoughts. The Minister of Culture, Linda Hofstad Helleland, and you're thinking about this issue. Welcome.
Dear audience, dear editors, and dear representatives of Facebook. First of all, I would like to thank the Association of Norwegian Editors for hosting this important debate. And not least, a big thanks to Facebook and Patrick Walker for taking up the Editors' Challenge to come here today. I am convinced that dialogue is more important than ever when it comes to strengthen the freedom of speech in the age of Facebook. People like us who set the standards for society's development have a special responsibility to take part in open dialogue. The background for this debate has been well presented today. Many people reacted to what they perceived as unjust censorship. Among those was the author, Tom Egeland, our Prime Minister, Erna Solberg, and myself. So why did we take such an interest in this debate? What triggered us? Well, for our Prime Minister, it was a personal experience. She told her story to the British newspaper, The Guardian, amongst others. The Prime Minister is a Facebook user, as most of us. And one day, she was on her way to my hometown, Trondheim, by plane. And before the plane took off from Oslo, she had shared Naked's famous Vietnam War photograph as a statement in the ongoing debate about Facebook's editing policies. And when she arrived at the airport in Trondheim and turned her phone back on, she noticed something very odd. It was something that had never happened to her before. The post had been removed from her page without any warning. As we know, Facebook later reversed their policy in this particular case. But serious questions still remained. These questions are very relevant to my responsibility as the Minister of Freedom of Speech, and this is why I chose to stand by the Association of Norwegian Editors' invitation to Facebook. And I'm very happy that you are here, Patrick, to discuss these questions with us today. I understand the social media's needs for so-called community standards. We need standards and we need monitoring. Otherwise, there is a risk that Facebook would redistribute punishable expressions. I also understand that it is impossible for human eyes to monitor billions of daily posts. You need algorithms to do the job. But sometimes the algorithms fail. Sometimes they stand in the way of important, healthy, and normal public debate that is so essential to our democracy. I'm happy that the Vice President of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, decided to listen to our Prime Minister. She sent her a personal letter thanking her for her commitment and promising to change the way the community standards and algorithms works. This is a display of cultural sensibility and willingness to listen. However, Facebook users still have no guarantee that such incidents may not occur again. Therefore, I hope you will continue to listen to your users and their needs. And I hope you will continue to support freedom of speech, especially in countries where this freedom has poor conditions. Although it is our core issue today, we should remember that freedom of speech is not only influenced by censorship. It is said that good journalists always follow the money. Ironically, in today's financial situation, they are still headed the same way as the money, out the doors of the media enterprises. Less journalists means less content. Less money means unwillingness to take editorial risks. This means less diversity in both media enterprises and media content. In other words, large cutbacks impair the media's ability to perform its democracy function, to enable citizens to make consequent and informed choices and to participate in elections and other democratic process. Why has this happened? Digitization is one major cause, or rather, the inability to establish new and profitable income models for the traditional media. The emergence of new digital players is the other reason why the media economy is threatened. All media depend heavily on advertising as a source of financing. Today, the advertising is moving towards online platforms and giants like Facebook and Google. This means a dramatic decline in profitability for the established media. The consequences are severe, not only for journalists losing their jobs. This situation is a threat against free speech and public debate, and also the health of our democracy. I am, of course, not the only politician and Minister of Media worried about this situation right now and worried about the future. But we are doing what we can to secure diversity in the media and a healthy environment for public debate. In Norway, we have set up a committee on media diversity, which is looking into how the media can be healthily financed in the future. I have also taken an initiative to discuss with my fellow Nordic ministers' colleagues how we can face the challenge that Google and Facebook and other global companies pose to the Nordic model of media financing, and also how facing these challenges still can take care of our small language in the Nordic country, our culture, and Nordic values. Facebook has provided the world with a unique tool. Not only can we communicate easily with friends and family all over the world, we can also share our thoughts and beliefs with the world. Democratic revolutions have started on social media. Important ideas and information travel across the globe every second. Services like Facebook will continue to change our lives and shape our future. With such fantastic opportunities comes very serious responsibilities. I do not doubt for a second that Facebook wants every person and every nation of the world to enjoy freedom of speech and unlimited access to a broad range of uncensored information. It's my hope that you will therefore continue to do all in your power to make this happen. And I think today, here in this room right now, it's an important step to strengthen the freedom of speech. And why do I say so? Because I think dialogue, what we are going to do right now, is the main tool to manage our common goal, more openness and more transparency. So thank you again for being here today. I'm looking forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Cultural Minister. Now, we are going to meet the editor that used the entire front page of his newspaper, Aftenposten. Some might say surrendered the newspaper because he actually put the Facebook logo on top, which I guess is a big thing in Aftenposten, to give voice to this. When asked, this is Espen Egil Hansen, it's the largest newspaper in Norway, and when asked about the relationship with Facebook, you have admitted that you have a dual relationship. It's kind of a frenemy relationship, both a friend helping you getting in contact with the community and share content, but also an enemy threatening to undermine the whole existence of a professional free press. We are looking forward to hearing you elaborate on this. Here you
Thank
are.
you.
Oh.
I can use this desk. I don't break any community rules by using this desk. For me, Facebook's censorship of Nick Utt's picture Terror of War was only a symbol or a symptom. Something is about to go terribly wrong. And over time, my concern had been growing about Facebook's dominating role. Today, if Facebook was a country, it would have had more inhabitants than China and USA combined. Each week, more than half of the internet users worldwide access news on feeds curated by algorithms designed by Mark Zuckerberg and his teams. And in some countries, social media already is the most important, the main source for news, like in Greece, where more people consider social media the most important source, more than TV and printed media together. Yes, I was concerned about how Facebook use their algorithms in deciding what will appear in your news feeds. Because the facts that news feeds are run by algorithms doesn't make them more objective. The algorithms are designed by humans. It's the engineers from Facebook's newsfeed team, based in Menlo Park, California, who insert their personal biases and their company objectives into them. They edit. And that's not all. The research associate at Harvard Business School, Greg Piacotta, says modern algorithms have become so complex that even their designers no longer completely understand how they work. So-called machine learning allows computers to learn from data and find new hidden insight and set new rules. According to various research studies, the algorithmically personalized news feeds may create so-called filter bubbles or other biases that effectively limit people's access to information. And yes, I was concerned about the lack of transparency from Facebook as a company. Facebook's editorial decision-making is not public, and you are not missing what you don't see. The rare moments of insight come when Facebook exercises its power beyond ordinary users' feeds, as in the case of the picture, The Terror of War. The modus operandi for Facebook in cases that draws public attention is to say, we did a mistake, sorry. So yes, I was annoyed about the arrogance of Facebook in how they answer to society when being debated, or rather, the lack of answers. A few weeks before my letter, I watched a video from Rome where Zuckerberg took questions from students. And one of them asked, is Facebook a technology company or is it a media company? And predictably, he answered that they are a technology company. We don't create content. We got the same answer here today. And yes, it is true, Facebook doesn't employ journalists. By the way, evil tongues say the same thing about Aftenposten. However, Zuckerberg's answer is a pure tactical one. And everyone understands why. if you're a media company, like the New York Times, you will have to take a larger and more complex responsibility for what you are and do than, say, a telecom company that only is facilitating data and phone calls. But Facebook not only is a platform for news and content and conversations, it commissions and pays news organizations to make content, not a media company. It edits every stream for each of you, for each of its 1.7 billion users, not a media company. It has a group of staff deciding on policy rules, not a media company. Up until August this year, it had an editorial team editing its trending news, not a media company. It has manpower handling content complaints, deciding to remove content or to let it stay. Still not a media company. Sorry, Mark. Like in the fairy tale of the emperor's new clothing, where the little boy screams out, but the emperor doesn't have any clothes on. In this case, Zuckerberg is so stark naked, he probably wouldn't survive Facebook's rules on nudity. This boy says, Facebook is a media company, and Mark Zuckerberg is the most influential editor-in-chief in the world. In recent weeks, Facebook has taken some small but important steps in the right direction from my point of view. Last Friday, Facebook announced that they now intend to relax its policies regulating content that is newsworthy, significant, or important to the public interest, even if they might otherwise violate own standards. It remains to see what this means and how Facebook will handle its new policies, but it's clearly a new beginning. Ironically, it also ends the discussion about what kind of company Facebook is. If you do considerations on what kind of content is newsworthy, what kind of content is significant and important, and what is not, well, then you do what I do, editing a media company. The other small step is Facebook being here, Patrick. Starting a conversation, not with me, not with editors, but with society at large. A liberal, democratic society like the one that gave birth to Facebook needs institutions, a working court system, lawmakers and a police force that answers to the people, and elected government. However, you also need the institutions of an independent press. And you don't need one, but many voices, independent of each other. And the reason is simple. The power of the press not only can be misused, it is being misused. Having a multitude of strong, independent medias are a key mechanism in a democracy. To paraphrase this year's winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, Bob Dylan, half of the press can be part crooked all of the time. Some of the press can be crooked part of the time, but all of the press can't be all crooked all of the time. I think Donald Trump said that. So crucial is this mechanism having a diversity of independent media that all democratic society have laws and regulatory preventing one player gaining too much power. And that's what's on stake now. One media company getting too much power. Not because it produces journalism, but because it controls and edits the global platform most dominating in deciding what journalism and information will reach whom. Facebook is a gatekeeper on a scale the world never has seen before. All this came to my mind when Facebook wrote Aftenposten the email telling us to withdraw or edit Nick Utt's picture Terror of War, or else we would have to face the consequences of being locked out of the community. What now? I think two things could happen, or probably a combination of the two. First, I think Facebook radically will have to change their policy of rarely participating in a debate about itself and its role. You are here today, welcome. You have now signaled that you will change your policy. Good. However, Mark Zuckerberg and the top product managers of Facebook will have to start a conversation toward society at large, not once, but as a running dialogue. The top management will have to take the responsibility that follows with its position, and it will have to change. Secondly, I think the EU Parliament and the US Congress will get more involved in Facebook's dominating role as a global media company. While media has changed radically as a consequence of digitalization, media regulatory has not. It still lives in a world of geographical borders and a long-gone time where printing presses and broadcasting licenses created monopolies. Today, we barely have words to describe the kind of position we see from global media players like Facebook, and even less ideas on how to handle a situation where one or maybe two players get a global dominance. I think that will change in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Espen. Please stay on stage. We are ready for the panel debate. So if Patrick and Linda will come on stage as well, together with Jan Thoresen, editor-in-chief of all website in Aller Media Group, and Monica Lid, who is the digital editor of Egmont Publishing in Norway. Please enter the stage.
It's like the US election debate.
So are you ready? So